Hello everyone and welcome to Thought Soup. This is episode 16. So today I'm going to talk about royalty. Is it any good? Do we still need royal families? Let's take a look at it. So as Homo sapiens, we're social creatures. We live in groups. And every single one of us has different abilities. Some are strong, some are intelligent, some are both. Everyone has their own capacities. And as such, we organize ourselves based on our capacities. And some were able to be leaders, some weren't. They just didn't have the vision, they didn't have the intelligence, they didn't have the courage, they didn't have the charisma, whatever it needed to be the leader. So others were. And so that went on for quite a while. That's how human societies were organized. Basically, we had a leader or a few leaders, and then we would just, the group would follow these leaders. Now, as time goes on, the emergence of kings and queens start to happen. So, or by divine intervention, they would kind of justify, or because they just self-proclaimed themselves. And so that went on for a good while, and the kings and queens started to have important power inside their communities. And of course we had good kings and queens and bad ones. So the good ones were the ones that would take care of their people because they understood that their own survival did indeed depend upon the well-being of their society. And so they did everything in their power for the well-being of their group. And there were some bad kings and queens who were absolutely mental, right? Psychopaths, like some of our leaders right now. Just a side note. And so these crazy people would, because they would have the capacities to take on the role as leader, and they would lead their group into endless wars or famine. And so what would happen then is the kings would confront themselves with other kings and other kingdoms, and they would go to war, which was often extremely expensive. So then they would be in debt. And death without endless numbers, with endless numbers, I meant to say, disease, etc., etc. And often the one who won got all the loot, of course. So that went on for a long time. And it clearly became a game of power. Who can have more power between kingdoms? That was quickly the game. It wasn't taking care of people. Then religion inserted itself officially into this whole kind of organization where the religion and the kings came together and basically came to an agreement. I'm making this extremely simple, obviously, but you all know this. They came to an agreement where, well, I, the king, will take care of all the earthly problems. You, the religious group, religious organization, will take care of the after death, the afterlife. I meant to say after death. I reincarnate. The afterlife. And so the religious would give authority to the kings to act as if they were representatives of God. Okay, so that was a very solid alliance, and it still is to a large extent in many, many, many places on earth today. So the religion gave authority to the kings, which they already had authority, but they reinforced each other. So that went really well. And there were certain advantages to this, of course. A king, once democracy started appearing, notably in the UK and England, but also in other European countries, then of course the kings would start to balance out the potential craziness of the elected government, right? So if the government went a little bit too far, well, the king could say, hey, that's about enough. Let's come back. And so it did have some positive aspects. It would propose an alternate vision. It would propose balance. It would keep the government from going crazy. But nobody kept the kings from going crazy. That's a small problem nobody talks about. And we didn't have to deal with messy democracies. The king is the king. So there was definitely some advantages, for sure. As I see it, humanity is evolving right now as we speak. And I think kings and queens are very nice for stories. They're very nice to convey messages, to convey lessons learned, maybe a little bit of wisdom, maybe a little bit. Not very much, but a little bit, for sure. But that's about it. I think today, as humanity evolves, we're becoming aware of our consciousness. And as we do so, we're starting to realize consciousness needs no master, needs no king. It needs not leading. Consciousness is. So as humans progress and evolve, the need for these leaders lessen. And so the pyramidal structures of the past are starting to invert themselves, bottoms up. We see this in technology a lot today. So I think monarchies are anachronistic today. They're out of time. They're not needed anymore. If the people are evolving, if the people are learning, if the people are searching and are trying to better themselves. So that's my take on royalty. Not a big fan, never have been, because of that famous little word, ego, which is what traps all humans, or most of them, that yield a lot of power. They tend to go a little bit crazy. Evidence is ample, unfortunately. Even today, even our governments, most of them are crazy people. So, and I say that lightly, but I'm sure expert psychologists would agree with this if they analyzed their actual words and actions. They would probably go towards the insanity as their verdict. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And next week, as a segue, a natural segue, I'll talk about religions in general. What do I think about religions? How can we view religions today in this modern age we're in? Although every human thinks the age they're in is the modern age, and it is. I'll see you all next week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be well.